Good evening, everyone. This is Tala with Drive-thru Therapy. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight on another episode. It is actually Christmas Day, and I had just spent time with my son, put him to bed right now, and so I'm recording. Been inspired recently by an email. But let me just kind of, before I get into the topic for tonight, what a Christmas, right? I don't know about you guys, but it feels cozier to me. And the reason why is just because we've been home a lot more, and it's nice to be cozied up and do the stuff that maybe in past Christmases I was not able to do. And so I feel like I've done more of it this time, whether it's decorating or baking cookies or what have you. It seems like more of it gets done this time around because I'm at home, you know? And so I like that downtime, and I don't mind it. It's good slowing down and to look at stuff a little bit more with gratitude. It's just cool. It's interesting. Add the holiday during a pandemic. And, generally speaking, the holidays are kind of difficult for many people because our society usually doesn't talk about it too much, but there's a high rate of suicides during the holidays. So it is not the funnest for many people, especially in my profession. I worry when somebody doesn't make it to an appointment or doesn't return a call or something. It kind of gives me it's just a little itchy to me. So I have to make sure I contact them and make sure everything is okay. They just missed that appointment and it's nothing else. That's just an emergency or anything. So yeah, it does happen. But I'm grateful that I can report that on my end, this holiday is full of gratitude. Yeah, that's where I'm at. As well as sinus congestion. I'm just putting it out there. Gratitude and sinus congestion together. Yes, that's what it's about this holiday season. Yeah, we're decking the halls with an over-the-counter decongestant every night. Oh yeah, that sexy. All right. Tonight is really an inspiration from an email that came from one of our listeners. Her name is Judy. And Judy talked about something that many people really avoid because they don't know how to approach it or process it properly. And what I'm talking about is growing up with parents who had separated and then they started their own families, and the child would be kind of put in between both families, right? And so in a lot of ways, we don't really talk about this. We think of it as just blended families and things blend, and that's not the truth. There are a bunch of people out there that have this issue of, just like Judy, she experienced a divorce between both of her biological parents. She ended up living with mom for the majority of the year and with father during the summers. And of course, on holidays, they could kind of exchange the Judy, yes, back and forth. Judy had to kind of go back and forth with both mom and dad. Now, mom and dad moving on with their life, right? They start dating and eventually marrying and creating a family with their new spouses or partners. And so Judy grows up feeling betrayed is what she sounds like. She definitely conveyed feelings of being outcasted and being put in the back burner. And if you think about it, each parent is married to another spouse that they have to please. And then, of course, these spouses have children and those children become the priority, right? And so Judy kind of gets left in the middle. And when she used to be the primary child who got most of the attention, now she's not. She's kind of set aside, perhaps, or felt like she was no longer a priority for parents or family. And I like Judy's story because she is a really good man. I don't know nowadays which family that you ever get into or that you ever get to know is not blended somehow, doesn't have a blended aspect to them where both parents may have had children before and then got together and then had children in that family, or may not have had children in that family, have already had children. Now Judy grows up with this huge resentment, and who could blame her, right? She feels like she's set aside. She feels like she is not heard or have anybody to back her up, is the best way to say that, because both parents have obligations and loyalties elsewhere beyond the child. And Judy, again, just feels lonely even though she has two parents. Who backs her up? Who's loyal to her is what she's kind of growing up thinking at that time, you know? I'm sure she would have had to do quite a bit to get attention and to please, or go the other extreme, which is rebel and to try to get attention that way. Either way, those are pretty valid and typical child responses you will see. The child will start acting out in some way because they know deep down inside, even if they can't verbalize it because they don't have the experience or the language, but instinctively they know that they've been set aside. They are no longer holding the attention or have the loyalty of the parent. The parent now is obligated and loyal elsewhere. I know that's a shitty way to say it, but I gotta say it. If it applies to something that you're aware of, then okay, it applies. But if it doesn't, please leave it where it's at. It is not to offend anybody, because there are people that have blended families that do it beautifully. I'm not talking about those families that are intact. I'm talking about the ones that may have had something that actually is a common occurrence where somebody gets left out in the mix, if you know what I mean, right? So we want to confront this because Judy's walking around with this confusion of, even though her parents were there physically and they provided for her, why does she feel betrayed? Why does she feel disappointed? Why does she feel this kind of resentment that sometimes can lead to anger? Why does she feel that if on the surface everything looked pretty good? The image was presented beautifully. Well, Judy, I want to make sure that we unconfuse you today. We want to make sure that we help you get your feet grounded in a place where we confront those things that maybe society says to not look at or avoid, or perhaps feel guilty about saying. Today we're going to confront those things, because in those things are some of the truths you want to face and help heal. But avoiding looking at it by feeling guilty or ashamed to confront these feelings of betrayal, of disappointment towards our parents, right, is not useful. So Judy, the first thing I want you to do is to claim your disappointment. Write a list of those feelings: the disappointment, the betrayal, the disloyalty that you might have felt, the guilt, the loneliness, all of those. I want you to write a list of those emotions. Be honest with yourself. Now, what I want you to do is suspend the guilt that you might feel about what you're told to feel about your parents. I know, it's like, Tala, why are you starting fights in the yard? I'm not doing none of that. All I'm doing is I'm wanting Judy to acknowledge those important feelings, because for a long time, many of us have been told that we shouldn't be angry at our parents, that they provided for us. They gave us all these things. Why would I feel angry or disappointed at them? It's like we were not allowed to feel whatever it is we needed to feel as children. And later on, we get confused as adults because we're like, there's guilt involved. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be disliking being around my mom and my dad, right? But the truth is, to get to the other side of peace and serenity and quietness and non-resistance, and to work out what we need to work out in our healing, we need to go through the difficulty of those emotions. We need to actually claim them first. And by labeling them, we claim them. We go through the feeling. We recall the memories that disappointed us. We recall the loneliness even, and the things that may have hurt. We claim those emotions. We claim them as the past experiences. We seek to understand them with the innocence of a child's eye and a child's mind. By doing that, we want to validate you, Judy, and your child self, that this all did occur, that you did feel this disappointment, and now you're allowed to feel it. You're allowed to actually feel all the feelings that you might have been suppressing, and it may have come out in different ways, but I want you to be available to that child self because she's still in there. And so we want you to kind of engage with her. We want you to let her know that she's allowed to feel those feelings. And yes, she's disappointed, and she's allowed to feel angry, even disappointed. She's allowed to feel disheartened about the way she was left or pushed aside. We want her to feel that way. We want her to know them, and we want her to acknowledge those feelings in order for her to never use them to hurt herself with them. In order for her to never use them to hurt other people with them, right? Because if I have unprocessed or unresolved anger or bitterness or something, it's going to kind of come out in the way I treat people. Make no mistake, we are not that sophisticated. It's going to come out. So I don't even need to know how current functioning of Judy's relationships are. I'm going to kind of guess that there's something going on when it comes to anger, or perhaps just feeling offended, or triggers that she might experience of that would be probably the same trigger every time of offense, of being left out or being not heard or being misunderstood. All those things are going to offend Judy, if and many others, if that's what you've gone through as a child and you've been repressing it. So by confronting those emotions, by claiming them and saying, yeah, I did experience it. Yep, I'm going to cry the cry I wanted to cry. I'm going to feel the anger I wanted to feel. I'm going to experience the betrayal and the disappointment that I wanted to feel, but I suppressed because as a kid, we're not allowed to think that the parent is wrong. We're not allowed to think that what they're doing is hurtful. We always think they're perfect, and the kid usually blames themselves for what for their feelings, for these sad feelings, unfortunately. And so they're not allowed to look at it properly. So Judy, acknowledge your feelings, validate them, sit in them. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel all those important feelings, even if it's your parents. They're human. And if you've ever been told that you should not be angry at your parents and they're getting older and you need to, keep it in your mind that nobody had the parents you had. Nobody had your experiences. So only you know what happened. The reason why I want you to acknowledge that frustration, that disappointment, that anger isn't to go to tell your parents off about themselves. That's the last thing I want you to do. It's kind of too late for that because there is, I mean, listen, they probably, whatever they did was probably not intentionally done. There was probably a lot of work that needed to be done within themselves, like everybody in this universe has to do, work within themselves. And they didn't do it, or maybe they didn't look at doing it in those areas. So they got caught up with life, and the decisions that they made are the decisions that they made. The point of us acknowledging this is because we want to be able to be around family without having this blame in the back of our mind, having this resentment, this offense that we carry in the back of our mind with our family. We want to set ourselves free. We want to be free to be angry at them first, right? Because I haven't done it for years. I want to be angry at them first, Judy, before I start forgiving them if I choose to do that. But forgiveness doesn't just come like, just go forgive. And no, you need to go through the feeling of anger, betrayal, all that stuff first in order for you to decide, if you wanted to, because it's a generous act, to forgive, to understand that although you felt alone and that you felt unworthy perhaps of the attention, it doesn't mean that you were unworthy. And there's a nurturing that has to happen after the anger subsides. As a matter of fact, this nurturing and this self-talk and this compassion to yourself is really important, because that's what's going to bring you out of the anger once you experience it deeply. There's no shortcutting this one. I've done this long enough to kind of see that you got to go through it. You got to face it. And you got to experience those feelings that we've repressed. And you would think it's easy to be angry at my parents and just, yeah. Most of the time, people actually protect their parents and they defend them, whether consciously or subconsciously. Again, they're going to defend them because they've been doing it for many years. When you do a lot of the self-blaming as a kid, right? It must be me. I must not be worthy. Then in reality, you're defending the parents. You're not giving them responsibility for their behaviors. You're kind of taking responsibility and blaming yourself as a child for why your parents are kind of doing whatever it is that they're doing. Okay? Again, even if they're not doing it intentionally, you're still allowed to feel disappointed, right? You're still allowed to feel like, hey, I was an outcast. I may not have been treated fairly in those homes because I felt like I was an inconvenience at times. You're allowed to feel whatever it is you felt because you've experienced it. But staying there is hurtful to you. And completely ignoring the feelings and not claiming them is also hurtful to you. So somewhere in the middle is where we're going to be at here, is understanding these feelings are there. We're allowed to feel those feelings. We're allowed to face them, claim them, confront them. We're not at this point going to defend the parents. We're just going to go all out and to between ourselves, that's it, or your therapist, we're going to kind of talk about it as it is without protecting anyone, without defending anyone, because it's really going to be compassionate for them too. Because once you let it out, then you don't have it in your mind anymore filled with confusion. Like, why am I protecting them when I felt hurt by them, right? And you'll start seeing them more with clarity, that they're not actually a devil and they're not an angel. They're not perfection. They're not God, right? We want to humanize our parents. And this is a good time to do that beautifully in. Now, I know this episode is not going to be for everyone. I already know that. But hey, we come here to help and be of service to anybody who sends in an email. And Judy, we're here for you today. So if you are currently thinking about integrating your family with another family by marrying someone, or you may have experienced that yourself, either way, this episode can help you, right? And if you know anybody that could use this, please send it to them. Send it to them just to make sure that, they're keeping everything in balance. the parents don't mean to do this intentionally. Even if they do everything perfect, you can't guarantee that the child is not going to experience some sort of challenge in adjusting to a new situation. And of course, this is a significant adjustment. So it makes sense. There's really nothing to blame and no one to blame. And this is not the point of today. The point of today is to acknowledge the feelings of this child who felt alone. Not to blame the parents, not to, point the fingers, but is to help Judy heal. That's what we're doing. So in claiming those feelings, sitting in them, not repressing them anymore, feeling and grieving for this child, for her feelings of loneliness and sadness and disappointment, we want to help her bring her self-esteem back. We want to make sure that, like I said before, nurture her, talk to her, let her know she was always worthy. Let her know that she was always lovable and there was nothing more or less that she could have done to get any different outcome. She was just right as she is, as she always was. And that's how we're going to talk to her. We're going to let her heal and let her know that her value wasn't in how she was treated. That's not where her value is. She's always had her value. Finally, if we can experience that and do the healing, then you decide, not because anybody else tells you, Judy, but because you decide whether you would like to give this generosity of forgiveness within you. Because forgiveness, like it's been said before, is not really for the people that have wronged you. Forgiveness is really for you. You're the one carrying this burden around. You're the one that's kind of repressing this child and her feelings and telling her to feel guilty if she doesn't like or what her mom and dad had done or how she was treated. Oh, no, there's no guilt there. We're removing all that guilt. We're loving her. We're letting her know that she is to be validated and she is to be acknowledged for her feelings. But whatever she decides to do afterwards, it is an act of generosity. If she decides to no longer hold up that lens that she sees her parents in, that causes her to kind of react in a way she doesn't like herself for, whatever that may be, whether it's she's really defensive with them, she always judges herself when she's around them, whatever habit she has gotten into that she doesn't like being around her parents because it's just not fun for her. She thinks of it as too much work. Whatever, that's the stuff that can be resolved if she decides to forgive. That's what she will be releasing. All those feelings that are kind of pent up because finally this little girl is being heard. Finally, she's being loved and has seen compassion from you, Judy. Nobody else, just you. And when you give her that, I promise you, she won't be hungry for it when she's around mom and dad anymore. She'll be just fine. Because technically, they can't give her anything, It's a false idea to think that we're going to get something if we keep going back to parents and I keep performing for them, that I might get a different outcome. I promise there's no outcome that you'll get that's any different. It's all been the same. But when I get right with me and in alignment with me and peace inside, then I won't need them to patch up this broken heart that I have. I won't think they have to give me anything for it to heal it, or they have to do any better or anything. They're free to be who they are and act any way they want to act, and I can just enjoy them. I'm free to do that. This is a big deal. Big opportunity for healing in this situation if you decide to confront this with honesty, Judy, and just do the work. We got to claim this anger. We got to claim this disappointment first. We got to talk to ourselves with compassion to nurture it. We got to nurture this broken-winged bird and get her into healing. Let her know that she's allowed to feel the pain of the broken wing in order for her to heal it properly. That's okay. It's kind of like when they do like nose surgery. If you had a broken nose before, they have to re-break it in order for them to perform the surgery. And that's how it helps. It gets straightened out. And that's what we're doing here. We're kind of have to break it again, but for good. We got to break it and experience it properly. Not stop it because of guilt. Not stop it to repress it, to avoid it again because of guilt and shame. Oh, no. We want to feel the whole thing. You get what I'm saying? In order for us to line it up again properly and get an outcome that we can live for or with for the rest of our lives. Not just patch up jobs, an actual real healing. I hope this made sense. But yeah, Judy, we're all here with you. And man, I can relate to every story I hear. In some way, I can identify with those feelings. Feelings of rejection, feelings of disappointment, of not even being able to feel disappointment because, you think your parents are perfect and it can't be them. It can't be what they're doing. It has to be me. I'm probably the one who's asking for too much, or I'm an inconvenience to them. And so it's very common for us to blame ourselves as a way to survive this childhood. But that's okay. Back then, that's all we could do. But now we don't need to be in this habit. We can actually break this habit and get our healing finally by understanding it through the adult eye. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I am sending you love and light. Please understand that there's nothing abnormal about feelings. They're absolutely natural to have. It is what we do with them that can turn into a nightmare. This has been an episode of Drive-thru.